And welcome back to another episode of the Double Doink podcast. My name is Brendan Deeg. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It would be greatly appreciated. You can also rate the podcast and review the podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. It would also be greatly appreciated. Our NFL Draft interview series continues, and today I got a very special guest. I got defensive lineman for Princeton. Samuel Wright is in the building. Samuel, how we doing, brother?
We're good. How you doing, Mr. D?
I'm doing well. Thanks for taking the time to come on. Greatly appreciate it on this fine weekend. So I kind of want to start here. How's the draft process been for you so far? You've been liking it? Been a little anxious? How's the mood been in Samuel land for the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, it's definitely been on both parts of the spectrum. There's some days I'm like, oh, this is exciting. There's some days where I'm like, this is working the nerves. It's definitely, it can be anxious at times. Especially compounded by still being in school right now. So I'm in the process of finishing up my senior year.
Finals. What did you major in at Princeton?
Architecture.
Cool. All right. So is the goal to be building some buildings when you're done football?
Yeah, in one way or another. I think so.
All right. So I'm gonna take you back to your childhood, man. You grew up in Lawrenceville, Georgia, correct?
Yes, sir.
So what was your childhood like? Just kind of give me some details on what it was like for little Samuel.
Childhood. Well, it was good, I would say, overall. We moved around a lot, because of my parents' job, because of our work, they were in real estate business. So it required that we just had to move around a lot because usually the houses we were staying in were kind of part of their business. So when we sold houses, we would pack up and move. So I've been all over the place down in Georgia. I say I'm from, if people ask where I'm from, I usually just say Georgia because honestly, there's so many spots I've been. Mm-hmm. But it was good. I'm sure, if you ask my sisters or my mom, my dad, they'll tell you I was a nightmare coming up.
Aren't we all? We were all nightmares, man.
Yeah, honestly. So I had my face. I tortured my household for sure. But it's been all love. I'm really close with my family. I'm a fan.
When did you start playing ball?
Started playing ball in 7th grade.
7th grade, okay. A little bit of a late bloomer then. Did you play any other sports growing up, or was it just football?
I did track and field.
When I
got to high school.
What sports and track?
My main events were shot put and discus, but I have an adventure spirit. I convinced my coaches to let me try almost all the field events. So I think I've done pole vault, high jump,
nice.
That javelin, everything really.
That's sweet. So just walk me through the recruitment process here because you went the Ivy League route. So why Princeton? Why did you decide to kind of take your talents to the Ivy League?
Yeah, that whole process was kind of interesting. I think my parents always pushed for me to go to school, all of us, for me and my sisters to go to school. But largely they were kind of hands off for most of the process, I think. They would always ask, check in now and then, like, how can we help you? But I wasn't sure how I needed help, what help I needed. And the process was kind of foreign to all of us, I think, like the recruitment process with football. So it looked like I visited a couple schools in Georgia that had sent me invites. I visited Duke and another school in Florida. And it kind of got late into my senior year. I think it was like one day in November or December even, that a coach reached out to me from Princeton. And I had talked to him a little bit. And from there, the process was pretty fast. It was within like the span of 30 days, organized a official visit to come up here. Retook my SAT to get a higher score to be able to make it in. And yeah, from that day till I think like December 2nd is when I ended up committing. It's been like 4 weeks. And so when I got here, honestly, it was just like falling in love. I'd seen some of the other programs and they were good places, but they just didn't feel like home. But when I got here, I kind of just didn't want to leave. So that's when I knew this was the spot for me.
So were academics always important for you?
Always. It was always school first.
So as a freshman, you started 2 games. So you kind of instantly jumped right into the defensive line rotation, kind of a seamless transition. How was the adjustment from high school ball to college football?
It was really different. I think just the process of like going to a new school, in a new part of the country. I'd never been up north. Um, had never, you hear about Southern hospitality all the time, but when you're in the South, that's just how it is. So when
Mhm.
you get out of the South, you realize why people call it Southern hospitality. So being with like a new demographic of people, I think that was a hard adjustment. Um, so when it came to football, it was a process that I think was a not a smooth transition just because everything felt like it wasn't a smooth transition.
Yeah, just a different world, man.
Absolutely.
All right. So, did you work on anything specific your freshman year? Like, I guess after the season, I guess after the season finished, was there something that you kind of dialed into in your first off season?
Yeah, I think it was like actually getting into shape. I think that, high school is a different ball game and you kind of can get away with being out of shape, or at least I was able to kind of get away with being not being in shape, but
Yeah.
I didn't realize I wasn't in shape until I got to college. And so spent a lot of time conditioning and running. I felt like I had to drop some weight because the weight I had on me was just a little unhealthy. And so
Mhm.
that's really what I focused on, and it actually made football a lot more enjoyable when I wasn't struggling to
Yeah.
survive.
No, I definitely can understand and attest to that. So, you got better every single year in your college. So you had four sacks in excuse me, you had 4 sacks in 2018. And then you had 4.5 in 2019. And then you had 11.5 in 2021. So every single year you were progressing. What did you do in the 2020 season? Because you guys didn't play. Is there something that you specifically kind of attested to and worked on during that year?
Yeah, I would say during that year, it was a combination of, just my mindset,
Hmm.
what I wanted to achieve going into the next year. But then it was also just diversifying my pass rush. Like as you said, I think sophomore year, I was a speed guy, used a lot of speed. And again, I told you I dropped some weight. So
Yeah.
I went from being an interior lineman to an exterior lineman. Um, so worked on the speed. Junior year, I put the size back on, put my strength back on, but I think I was so tied up in the mentality like, oh, I've been a speed guy now. Like all I can do is speed.
Hmm.
So senior year, I was like, okay, time to use all the tools that I have. I got to use combination of strength, speed, and then just work in other moves. I need to be able to counter. And so it was really just honing in on being as versatile as possible. And I think that's what led to the success of this last season.
2021, 36 tackles, 11 and a half sacks, 13 TFLs, first team all Ivy League, just an absolute monster in your final season. I actually watched the tape from your Penn game, man. You had this one sack where you just kind of like hucked your right tackle completely off of you. You go and sack the quarterback, force a forced fumble. It was tremendous, awesome to watch. You finished that game with 3 sacks and 6 tackles against Penn. Is that kind of your pinnacle game of your career?
I think it is, actually. Yeah.
So walk me through the just the final season. What's kind of the favorite memory I guess you had in 2021? Maybe outside the Penn game.
Outside the Penn game. Favorite memory. It kind of depends. There's a lot of different reasons. I think overall, I was kind of battling through this season. I was kind of battling psychologically with wanting to perform to what I knew I was able to, and in years past, feeling like I didn't meet my own expectations. So there was that added kind of like a level of anxiety going into my games. But I would think that the Dartmouth game is probably a favorite memory. And we ended up losing that game. It's weird that that would be the favorite, but it's the favorite because I felt bad, like kind of during that game. I think I felt bad. I think I can maybe attest to some of my teammates kind of feeling like the energy overall seemed a little bit off. And at that time, we're getting into game 6, game 7 of the season. A couple of guys are starting to feel a little banged up. So for me, I think playing that game and pushing through the sort of mental cap that that I felt I had on me. I thought I played bad, but when I went back and watched the film, I think I actually did pretty well. So that was the moment where I discovered that even at my worst, I've now fit the mold of this player that I want to be, no matter what the circumstances are.
Okay, so walk me through the last couple weeks. So what have you been up to? Who have you been working out with, and how many teams have been kind of reaching out to? Like, what has kind of just the pre-draft process been looking like for Samuel?
Yeah, pre-draft process. So it's working out all 6 days a week right now is my schedule. So after the pro day, I had two teams approach me. I can say who they are.
Yeah, for sure. Go for it.
Okay.
Fire away. Yeah.
I had two teams approach me pretty immediately right after the draft, which was the Falcons and the Seahawks.
Hometown team.
Mm-hmm. And so I already had those. They were set about 2 or 3 weeks after pro day. So it basically transitioned from, instead of doing like pro day training, I was now doing like drills and more field specific stuff that they would probably ask me to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a little different because Falcons and the Seahawks want me to play as like a linebacker. So I've been working drops, flipping hips, working on my hands. So just developing new skills when I was a lineman.
Yeah.
And then after, the Seahawks, they came to me. I worked out with them here at the school. Falcons, I flew out there. And then I also, right before I went to the Falcons, the Jets had called.
Cool.
And I went and had a workout with them. And this time they wanted me, as a D lineman. And so from there, it's been, getting a couple calls from teams. Like the Raiders reached out to confirm my draft day information. Cowboys sent me a questionnaire. So it's been discovering sort of the interest level around the league.
Yeah.
And then just keeping up with my training and keeping up with school at the same time. So it's been a trifecta.
Been pretty busy, I guess, for the last few weeks. All right, let's take it off the field, Samuel. I want to kind of learn more about you. What do you like to do for fun? What do you do off the field when you're not thinking about football? You got like a video game hobby. What hobbies do you like to do?
Yeah, I mean both. It's funny because my hobbies are kind of right behind me here. You can see my TV.
I can see the guitar there too.
Yes, and the guitar. I have an acoustic and an electric behind me. And so, yeah, music is a big part of, my life growing up. I come from like a musical household. I've always been involved with some instruments. And so I make my own music, I record it, I release it. And so, yeah, whenever I have a second just to step away from break, like it's good to just have my guitar right there to pick up and strum for. It usually shouldn't be like hours because I have work to do, but if I pick it up, there's a guarantee it's going to be at least 3 hours. I might have it in my hands.
You are a super impressive dude, man. This is awesome. So before we get out of here, Samuel, I'm going to do a rapid round question, fire some rapid questions at you. Give me one-word answers, and we'll get off on that. How's that sound?
That sounds great.
All right, Samuel, what is your favorite fast food place?
Five Guys.
Five Guys. That is a solid answer right there. Who is a player you want to mold your game after? Who did you idolize growing up?
Ooh, I probably didn't understand. Kurt Haluma. One word. I'll keep it one word. Kurt Haluma.
You can only listen to one artist going forward for the rest of your career before games. So hyping yourself up before games. Who is that artist you were listening to?
Kendrick Lamar.
Kendrick Lamar. All right, good answer. What's your favorite TV show of all time?
Adventure Time.
Favorite movie of all time?
Monster House.
Monster House. No, that's a good answer. You could have a beer or / coffee with one person in the world. That person could be dead or alive. Who is that person you're having that beer / coffee with?
Ooh. Yeah, that's a hard one. My future wife.
There you go. That's an awesome one. All right, we'll get you last question here. If you can do one job, it cannot involve football. So can't be a scout, can't be a coach, can't be on the field football, cannot be involved with this job. What's this job that you would want to do?
I'd be a carpenter.
There we go. Samuel Wright, defensive lineman for Princeton. Thanks so much for doing this, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Brennan.